All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. On today's episode, we have a very, very special guest, Tiffany Bays. Tiffany, how are you, ma'am?
I'm good. How about you?
Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to to this episode. So with that being said, for those of us that don't know a whole lot about you, can you please share a little bit about yourself and what you do, please?
Yeah, I'm a licensed professional counselor, moving a little bit more into the coaching space now, but still holding on to being a therapist. Um, I primarily I help people who feel let down by the traditional mental health system, feel stuck in negative emotions, repeating patterns, and I like helping them get to the root of what's driving it so they can create lasting change in their lives.
Oh, that's great. You mentioned the traditional mental health system. Can you kind of elaborate on that? What is that?
Oh,
Whew, let's go.
yeah. Western world, how we were trained as therapists. Um, when you come into it, you don't know anything about it, and you're really just letting people guide you, and you're just taking everything in, and um, it can be pretty overwhelming, right? Being in grad school and don't really know what you're doing, and then you get out there and you still don't really know what you're doing, but you've had all this stuff, given to you how to do it this specific way, right? The right way to do therapy and all those things. And I think we pretty quickly learn that there's a lot of different people out in the world, right? You really can't be it for all of them, right? You're not everyone's cup of tea, and everyone's not your cup of tea. And there's no real right way to be a therapist. But I think the way we were trained is that there is a right way to be a therapist, which is what actually really connected us to have this discussion in the first place, right? The post that was made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tiffany, I wonder if you can kind of elaborate on what is that right way from your experience? Like, what's that story about?
I don't believe there's a right way anymore. But what's that story about? That's a good question. We all come into this field we go into whatever field we're working in for a reason, but I'm going to speak just specifically to the mental health world or the therapist field. Most of us have been hurt. Most of us have been through trauma. We have a lot of compassion for other people, and there's still parts of us that are unhealed, right? We come in to help other people heal while we're still healing ourselves. And so for me, there was a right way. There was a right way to be, right? As a child, there was a right way to be. So as a therapist, there was a right way to be. And, just like this post that we saw, I've also been told by many other people that you don't belong in the mental health field, that you're not doing it the right way. And it's really silly because there's a lot of different ways to do things. There's a lot of different ways to help people and guide people. I don't know if that answers your question, but the way I look at it now is just, I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, and it works for some people. And for some people, it's not going to work. And that's okay, because there's different therapists out there that can help those other people.
Yeah, and just to kind of provide the audience with a little clarity, if I may, Tiffany, talk about the post. Is that cool with you? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I think a few days ago, maybe a week ago, something like that, somebody posted anonymously on one of the Facebook groups that we're both in. And before this post, we weren't connected in any way. But this person commented anonymously saying how they were belittled, demeaned, told to they shouldn't be a therapist. Essentially, if I remember correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, because they were a conservative or had conservative leanings as a therapist. And they didn't elaborate. They didn't say that they were practicing as a conservative, that they were imposing their own beliefs. I suspect that the post was talking about another clinician telling this poster that because they were conservative, they shouldn't be in the mental health space. That's what I gathered from that post.
That's what I got from it too.
Yeah, and this person posted really just to seek out some support and just to express some frustration about like how messed up that is. Hey, I can't be myself. What's going on here? Can I get some advice? What's going on? I feel really bad about this whole situation. And I responded to that user saying something like, do you want to talk about this on the podcast? And then I think Tiffany commented, I don't think you were the poster.
No.
I think it might have been somebody else, but you were like, yeah, I have some experience in this too. And so then that's how we connected.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder, Tiffany, have you experienced that yourself in your career so far? Like being like other therapists, knowing that you're a conservative and they're like, and they're kind of treating you a certain way. What is that?
You know what? The thing is, it's really interesting. I'm just going to be super vulnerable here. I'm not actually that conservative. If I had to choose or had to lean, I am more libertarian, just to put it out there. And I haven't always been. I'm like to be open and receptive.
Yeah.
And I will say, I was much more conservative 10 years ago, right? Even longer than that, or even 5 years ago, I was much more conservative. But the way that things have happened in the world, and I wouldn't identify as that now. So, but so on Facebook, when you're looking for like support groups for like with other therapists, I mean, there's probably there's a ton, here and there, but you see the more black and white, right? You'll see, I guess certain groups that I was in before that are more like larger, well-known collective, like tens of thousands of therapists in them. When you do make a post that anyone can perceive to be much more conservative, and we're just holding, honestly, one of the posts that I made that I kind of got like eaten up on was, what was it about? Oof, I'm going to get it for this one. Trump derangement syndrome. And I just see things a little differently when it comes to the drama triangle, when it comes to saying I'm a victim to you, right? Because you give your power away when you do that, right? So the Trump derangement syndrome, first of all, not in the DSM, okay? And even if they put it in the DSM, because there are some things in the DSM I don't believe in either. I don't believe in that. And I don't believe it's moving in a forward direction, helping the mental health world at all. So I made a post about Trump derangement syndrome. I actually had written a blog on it. I wrote a blog, I did a little, what do you call it? Like a slide deck, just for people who don't want to go look at the blog and they want to swipe through things. And I posted that because I thought it would be helpful, because a lot of lay people are talking about having Trump derangement syndrome. I'm not for Trump. I will say that. I'm not for Trump. I don't think what he's doing is, I don't know what he's doing either, first of all. Like, it's hard to know what other people are doing, but I'm not for him. Okay. And I'm not going to offend him, but I want to speak just directly on, it was feeling like a victim and not being empowered. Right. So that was the post that I made. And I had to turn off the notifications because the things that people were saying to me were nasty. They were just nasty. And a lot of it was like fighting, and it was defensive. It was unhealed therapists, in my opinion. I'll just categorize it in that way. Or maybe they were caught on a bad day, right? We're all healed in some areas. We all have bad days. So this happened, and it made me want to, and now I didn't leave this group. I didn't leave the big group, but I did try to seek out a group that felt like it fit a little better. My friend messaged me and said, hey, I think you'll like this conservative therapist group or whatever, which is interesting. Can I speak on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So I joined this group, and I'm watching these posts come in, and I'm seeing everything. And I thought, gosh, I just don't feel like I belong here either. But let me ask a question, because I don't know what everyone in this group means by conservative. And I also don't know if a lot of people give a lot of thought or credit to the fact that there's a lot of words in the English language. We could take one word like conservative. You tell me what it means to you, and I'll tell you what it means to me. And then we'll ask our neighbors, and we'll ask, and so that's what I did. I made a post in this conservative group, and I said, what does conservative in this group mean? And literally everyone who said something, there's at least probably 25 people that replied to that. They said something completely different. And I felt better about staying in the group. But I also hoped that everyone also noticed that, because the way that some of the posts were coming in, it was like you had to be a specific, like fit this mold. And I won't rattle off a list of, because everybody's got their own idea, and I just don't even know if that's necessary. But it's really interesting how we look at things and words and labels. And so, yeah, I joined this group hoping for like a little bit more support, like this person. So when I saw this person's post, and I mean, this person seemed to be, she literally said it was causing depression for her. And has anyone else experienced this? And so I've had, yes, my own experience in some of those kinds of ways. and probably some other ways too. And 13 years ago when I was doing supervision, my supervisor said, "You're too solution focused for this field." And I went home and I was like, I don't belong here. I shouldn't be doing this. So yeah, I've experienced it. And I felt for that person when they made that post. And so as soon as you said, does anyone want to talk about this on a podcast? I just felt drawn to it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tiffany. And you know what's crazy is that it's really interesting because me being new to the field, I've noticed that there's some ironies in the field, and one of them is that we're taught in school to be curious, right? To be open-minded, to hold space for the client, and to try to embody these things, right? Because the more you identify with these things, the more that you can project them. Because one thing they also teach us in school is that a lot of our own stuff can linger under the surface and it can be projected unconsciously. Whether it's through thoughts, through energy, whatever. There's a whole ton of research that kind of conveys that your own attitudes and feelings and beliefs can somehow be projected. And I noticed that that's not always the case, kind of going back to what you said, and in the case with this particular post on Facebook, it's going back to what you said. It's like, this person's like, they made me feel depressed. And so that in a way is like, how can you be a therapist in a way when this causes depression? Like how can it be so triggering for you that it causes this depression? If it's something like, hey, it kind of upset me, I was frustrated, like I was a little turned off by it, it's one thing. But to say, it causes depression, to me implies kind of a more significant impact, and it's just like, then I think to myself, well, what if it was like a supervisor or an esteemed colleague or maybe somebody that they really respect? That could definitely cause some depression. But man, it's just like a whole world of things going on in this one post, right? It's like therapists who cannot like be resilient enough to kind of handle some remarks. And then also not being able to tolerate other people with differing opinions. What else we got? There's like so many threads to unpack in that one post that I was just like, what? Like, this is insane. And so, I feel what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. And I think when we kind of met just to chat about, are we going to do this podcast? I was having a hard time because I'm like, there's so much here, we could talk about this for days, but to your point of how could you feel so depressed, right? How could you be so impacted by this? Because honestly, that's a lot of where I focus with people now, because it's something we have control over, right? I mean, to an extent, right? People can influence us. But when we're saying, and that again goes back to like the Trump derangement syndrome, right? I feel this way because this person did this or whatever. We have no control over what other people are doing. We have no control over what other people said. And there really should be, now that's my expectation, I'm projecting that, a level of awareness with therapists. I mean, like we are an authority figure that should be held to that standard, right? We should be holding ourselves to that standard, mindful and aware, because we have to do the work within us first, right? And you never have all your shit together, so you never have all the work done. It's a lifelong thing. And that's what we're committed to if we're saying, I'm gonna be a therapist, I'm gonna be a coach, I'm gonna guide people, right? So if we're being at cause, right? Because and I want to kind of like back up just a little bit, because I think it's important for people to have a little bit of a baseline understanding, especially when I'm using certain words like victim and being at cause and, that type of thing. So we talked a little bit about the drama triangle, which really should be taught in school, grad school, as a therapist. I don't believe it ever was. I think I would have been drawn to it if it was talked about. But maybe I was like, oh, don't let me, I don't want to, see that. But in the drama triangle, you have 3 parties, and it doesn't have to be 3 individuals. It can be a system, it can be a group, it can be, I don't know, you name it. So you have the victim, you have the persecutor, and you have the rescuer. And we're typically, in someone else's eyes, the rescuer to the victim. People come in because things are happening to them, right? Now, my personal opinion is it's our job to help them understand that things are happening for them, because that's what helps you grow. If you can see how this is an opportunity for learning, and that's what I mean by something is happening for you, that this is an opportunity for learning, then what is there for you to learn in this specific situation and scenario, right? Keeps us out of it, keeps the focus on them and where they have power and can create something different. So the antidote to the drama triangle, the victim becomes the creator, the rescuer becomes the coach, the persecutor becomes the challenger, right? So we're eliminating the drama and we're helping to guide them to create their own reality. So they're no longer the victim. It doesn't feel good being a victim in the first place. I mean, there's secondary gain. If you're doing it and you like it and you want to hold on to it, there's usually something you're getting from it. Not saying that, anything about your character at all. It is what it is. But there's a lot of drama involved, right? And so you usually have to, universal laws, you got to let something go to get something better, right? Mm-hmm. I know it got off track just a little bit because I wanted to explain. Okay, so being at cause, right? If you are in the drama triangle, then to get out of it, you go, where am I at cause? Okay, I put myself in a victim position, or I am seeing someone else in this position. How do I get out of it? And then you have to have that awareness and be able to shift, right? A lot of rescuers are actually enablers. We're doing for, we're not doing with, right? And I don't believe that therapy was ever supposed to be a do for process. And coaching definitely isn't. It's a do with, right? We're guiding. So when we're doing something for someone, we take away their power. We say, you can't do this yourself. Let me help you do it, or I'll do it for you, right? Well, what we could do is just sit here and support them and guide them, ask them, questions. Where are you the creator? Where are you at cause? Where is there an opportunity for learning here? Where is there something that you're being triggered by that you can let go of? Then they are naturally going to think of a solution. They're going to create their own reality. It's not like, if I told you what was best for you, Rich, you might go home and roll your eyes and be like, well, that might be best for Tiffany, but it's not. You're right. Because I'm going to project what's best for me onto you and go, that's what's best for you. Mm-hmm. They have to figure out what's best for them anyway.
Yeah. Tiffany, do you mind? I think we need to start over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And not in a bad way. It's just, I feel like we started with like a shotgun blast.
Okay.
And it may be a good idea, and it's fine. Like, I can edit this part out if you don't want to start over. Yeah. It may be a good idea for me to read the post right from the beginning. Okay. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you think? That way we can kind of provide some context, or is that too much? What are your thoughts?
I was on a roll.
Okay, yeah. We'll keep going then. Don't worry about it.
No. I mean, but what are your concerns? Because then I think if I know your concerns, I can give a better.
No, I'm not concerned with anything you're saying. I think I'm just putting myself in the mind of the viewer. Yeah. And I feel like there was no like starting main topic. It was just kind of like, yeah, and then we, after like a minute or two, we talked about the post, but then like we added to it. Yeah. And then it was like, oh, and by the way, yeah, this person said that they felt like depressed by the you know what I mean? And yeah. And so,
are you able to, can you keep some of what we have and then maybe we start over and you can splice in here and there?
Add it in. Yeah. You know what? I think, I don't even think I'm like scrolling through that group, and it might have been deleted actually.
Okay, I can send it to you. Maybe.
Oh, you have? Oh, dang!
I did. I know. I screenshotted it because I will not keep things in my RAM. It fills up too quickly. So in my brain RAM, that's so I screenshot stuff if I know I'm going to have to refer back to it.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so, yeah, nice. All right.
But I think when you said we're gonna have to start over, I was like, "Fuck the whole thing."
Oh no. Yeah, I just feel like adding in that and like reading it will give the viewer like a very clear like starting point. Like, oh, okay, we're gonna unpack this post and what it means and what are the you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we just
and provide overall commentary about the post.
Why can't I add an attachment? Oh, because I'm on airplane mode. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was deleted actually.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so here you go.
Okay. Are you emailing it or?
Yeah, I just emailed it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was thinking too, I was trying to at least stay on a topic of the flow, but this is complex. There's so much here. And I also, I empathize with the person as well,
Mm-hmm.
which I hope I conveyed that. Um, and that's the thing is as a therapist or as even a good friend,
Mm-hmm.
empathizing, but then also holding someone accountable. It's like
Oh
you
yeah, so
you
good.
let them make you feel depressed. You can't. And as therapists, I mean, isn't that a no-no? Nobody can make you feel a certain. I mean, I just thought that was a standard.
Mm.
People can influence you. People can say things. I mean, it only usually really hurts, stings, if there's baggage, if there's something in you that kind of believes that same thing.
Let her
My
cook, Tiffany,
I'm
cook.
I'm gonna guess, this person, and I'm putting myself in her shoes because I've actually been here before.
Yeah.
When people were saying the things to me like, you don't belong in this field,
Mm-hmm.
like there was a part of me that believed that. That's the only reason why it stung is because my own baggage was unresolved.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, that's a cue. That's a red flag that goes like, hey, if you are experiencing, and particularly an irrational response or a heightened emotion that doesn't match the situation, that's your baggage.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally agree. And I like to read. I'm just gonna keep this recording the way it's going. Like, are
Okay,
you cool with that? What do you think? I
that's
might
fine. I'm
edit
cool.
out something. All right, so I got the post here. I'm gonna read it. So it says, and again, this was anonymous, right? So not calling anybody out. And then
Yeah.
this user posted, "I'm actually feeling depressed about how people make me feel as a conservative. One lady told me that I don't belong in my field or as a therapist because of my views. I said, not true. I believe in self-determination and that we have the power and will to change our position in life if we want to. There is no need for people to stay stuck and have the government pay for you. Has anybody experienced such hate?" And there's so many threads here, Tiffany, and I think you were pulling on one, that is that therapists kind of should have a lot of resiliency and not allow other people to make them feel this level of emotion, right? Depressed. Like it's kind of a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're going to help other people with this particular, type of thing, like other people not having enough power or you not giving them so much power that they can make you feel a certain way, then it's something that we should be doing too,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think if I can just think back all the way to like some of the baseline therapeutic skills that you learn is helping people understand that no one can make them feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people can be shitty. People can be real shitty, but you've probably had people be shitty to you and you just kind of were like, all right. And what about your day?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's because whatever they said to you, there was nothing unresolved within you that they didn't hit any baggage. So it was like, were you trying to hurt me? Because I'll see you later.
Yeah, right.
But if there is baggage, then they say it, poke it, it's
Mm-hmm.
coming up. And
Yeah.
in my perspective is it's the universe's way of going, hey, here's something for you to resolve.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's tough because there's a part of me that, at least for me, it's tough for me because a part of me is like, I want to be very understanding and empathic and be like, dang, like we're all human, right? Like we cannot not feel things, especially, I mean, who knows who said it, right? Like I said earlier, it could have been, a parent or some kind of relative or a loved one, a friend, right? Whatever. Somebody that they esteem and maybe that really hit home and they're like, dang, maybe you did trigger something or maybe there was some baggage there. And on the other hand, I'm like, and you're also a therapist and you're also a clinician, like, do we not have this resiliency, we know the things, right? Like cognitive distortions, like where's the evidence, like all the things, the drama triangle, right? Like, it's like, and we're not embodying these things. And so it's really tricky. It's so tough because, I agree. I agree that we're not really embodying, what we learn in school, and when we try to help our clients really learn and assimilate into their own identities, it's
Yeah.
really tricky.
Yeah. And my husband said something earlier. You're most equipped to help the person you used to be, or you're most equipped to help the person in the situation where you've been, or something like that, which is just motivation to, if you're having this experience, to work through that, right? Because this is a common thing. I hear this all the time from people. This person made me feel,
Yeah.
and it's like, ooh, well, how do we help you if we're sitting here with you?
Yeah.
Right? Because we can't have a chat with that person, or, you know, you have to be equipped to be able to walk around your life and live your life regardless of what other people are saying and doing and agree with you or not. And I do have a lot of compassion for this, because I've been in this situation and I'm not exempt from it even now. I mean, catch me on a bad day, right? And I'm, you know, baggage coming up too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's really tough, because I think in general, for sure, I think therapists should be, there I go with the should, right? Like, I think it is imperative and prudent for therapists to be practicing and really unpacking that baggage, and really, like you said earlier, like, this is a signal from the universe that, hey, there's something here. It struck a chord. Like, maybe I got to go get this checked out. What was it about this comment that really, like, dug itself in there and caused, in this case, depression? You know, like, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, so I don't know, I actually don't recall in grad school learning necessarily about like shadow work a whole lot, but if I'm honest, it's much needed with, I'll just say, human beings. Okay. And it's not certain people, it's not certain populations. It's like no one's immune to the shadow. We all have the shadow. And so what's been most beneficial for me is some of the universal laws. And I can't remember which universal law this is, but it does coincide with some shadow work. And it's where, if someone is saying something to you, right, or there's something that triggers you, then where is that in you? Where is it that you believe that about yourself? Or, and maybe it's hanging out in your shadow. Maybe you don't want to look at it, because that's all the nasty stuff that we don't want to look at. We just said, that's not me. I don't. And we all do it. And I do think as therapists, we do have a responsibility to be doing our own work, so that we can see that when it comes up with other people, we can help them, or we at least have the awareness where we have boundaries. And I know this person, it wasn't a client, you know, that's a whole different story. And I don't know, this is a good time to move into like another kind of area of where this post is problematic, is therapists doing this to each other.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Like, I can have enough compassion for this person in this situation to be kind. You know, clearly there was an unkind interaction that happened. And yes, we're seeing a lot of that. I experienced that. I don't know if you've experienced, you post a lot too. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. A lot of judgment, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I don't know exactly, because we don't have the context of that particular post. She just came, and I'm guessing it's a she. I don't know. I think it was a picture of a pretty bird. But yeah, I think, to me, that's where my passion kind of was when you said, does anyone want to talk about this? And I was like, heck yeah, I want to talk about therapists being nasty to other therapists, because this is completely unnecessary. Our focus is now fighting each other versus like spreading our light to other people and helping other people. Today's, we don't need that right now.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so crazy to me to know of and have experienced judgment by other therapists, you know, and not just directly, but even indirectly. You know, I've been in staff meetings where like therapists will say like some kind of wild things and nobody does anything. The leadership doesn't do anything because the leadership agrees with them, you know? And I'm just like sitting there like, whoa, what? Like, is that what we say around here? Like, what's going on, you know? And so, yeah, it's just so crazy to see that nastiness, that, you know, I don't want to say the word hate, but like that judgment from one clinician to another in a world where I just, you know, came in expecting everybody was going to be professional, you know? And so, yeah, it's wild. What are your thoughts on that?
Which part exactly?
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that is, Tiff? Let's go back to why do you think the field is that way, or clinicians are that way?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back to, I mean, I only know what I know, right? And I won't claim to know exactly why, but my perspective and my model of the world and because we're all trying to put the pieces together and figure it out, right? Whatever we don't know, we're always trying to figure it out. And our brain does a massively good job at putting the pieces in. They're not always right, and a lot of times they're negative and they're not helpful, right? So you have to be a little bit careful with that. But Here it is. I think we come into this field unhealed. We don't come in healed. We are, if in society, we are leading more of the healing. So we have a little bit more of the responsibility of healing ourselves. Otherwise, we become the blind leading the blind. And we're already like semi-blind, right? Because we're never going to be, just have all our shit together and be completely healed, right? But we do, so it's a balance. We've got to juggle being mindful of our own shit coming up while also helping to guide other people. But when you come in unhealed and you go like, because I think there are some therapists, and I might have done this at one time, so I'm not judging. If you come in and you go, got all my shit together, ready to help people, give me some clients, right? No, you're still going to have shit come up, and then you're going to be doing some of these things, right? Like judging other therapists, and none of us are better than anyone else. We're all here living the same life, doing the same thing, looking for the same outcome. I wish I had this more readily available, and I might like flip through a book and see if I can find it, but I had something that I had written down. Do you mind if I grab something real quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm going to pause it. Yeah. All right, we're back.
So I was working with a coach who gave me a lot of really good insights, but this one thing really stuck with me. I should put it in a better place than having it in a raggedy journal where one day I might have trouble finding it. But she gave me these 4 things, and it really put some things into perspective. So 1, everyone is suffering and insecure. 2, everyone is wearing a mask. 3, everyone is pretending not to wear a mask. 4, everyone is a product of childhood suffering and reward. No one is exempt.
Yeah, who was this coach? No, I'm just kidding. Very sage. Yeah, wow, those are really good.
So why do I think this is happening? I think it's because we have therapists who are, there's probably something here that I'm really missing. I'd love it what do you think? Where can you add to this? Because 1, we're unhealed, but like, what are we doing with that? What's happening? Are we going like, all right, well, I went to grad school and now I've been a therapist for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. And so now I've healed all my wounds. I've solved all my problems. And so now I'm going to go tell other therapists where they're fucking up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening other than there's something unhealed in you in order for you to be so unkind and go projecting your side, because that's what it's, projection. Yeah. Someone projected their beliefs, their baggage, their trauma onto the other person. I like to look at it as like projectile vomiting because it's nasty. Right? Everyone can see it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this one's tough, because, when I look back at grad school, I know that their goal is it's a business, right? Like they're there to get as many students in and graduate as many students. And so when I think of their mission is 1, to make money, and then 2, to just establish like the minimum amount of competency, to make sure that the student is safe to work with, that they're not going to violate any ethical rules that can come back on them or whatever, right? And so they're really just kind of focused on the thinnest sliver of minimum competency that the board will accept, right? And it's crazy because I wonder how it was back in the days, like back in like the psychoanalytic days, like where you needed to get somebody to say like, hey, I endorse this person for licensure, and I'm sure that was like rife with abuse, by some of those old school who were like, oh, like you need another 1,000 hours, or you need to do X, Y, and Z to make sure that I write you a letter, and so I could see where, and I don't know if that was the case or not, but I could see where that could be very problematic for those clinicians who were in senior positions, who were kind of lording licenses over, interns or students or whatever, And so, yeah, it's so tough, Tiffany, because it's like, I suspect that not a lot of people that go to be therapists like went to therapy before they became therapists. I mean, maybe some, but was that enough? Like, how do we know, Yeah. And then, and it's wild because once you join the field, not you as in you, but once those people join the field, it's like, how are they aware, And I'll be honest, like, I think maybe all right, let me quick tangent. I have a gripe with supervision. There's a part of me that's like upset about it. I'm like, why are we paying? Like, it's so many hours. Like, do we really need so many hours? But then things like this come up where I'm like, well, this is where that, first line of defense is the supervisor, where they can hopefully pick up on some of these things and be like, hey, you really should go get this checked out, maybe provide some guidance, some leadership. Because if we didn't have that, like, what would what would the field be like, and so yeah, this is a tough one, because I think it really is a mark of a mature person to be able to realize, to have that awareness, and to say and to recognize when these things are triggering, and enough for them to be like, I should probably go get this checked out, instead of reacting defensively or reflexively, So yeah, it's tough, man. It's really, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, a couple of things came up. So I was thinking back to, like, what did I learn in school? What were and it was all a lot of theory. I mean, there was some application, and we had, practicum and stuff like that. It felt like joke. I mean, I'll say that, right? And when you have, well, first of all, let's talk about, the brain isn't fully formed until like 25 to 30. And I think maybe they're even looking at even later than that now. So it's interesting, because we actually push people to go to get their college degree, which mine was a little delayed because I went into the military, and, so I don't know, I don't remember how old I was, but I was older in, the master's program. But that's a really young age to go into your 20s, trained as a therapist in school, and then there you go, right? And there was no really, personally, I've been in therapy since I was a child. So part of my baggage pulled me into, maybe you should do that so you could do a better job. I don't know. And so I've been in therapy for a very long time. And now my personal belief is, it is kind of like a way of being. It's like a way of life, as you go and you pay a sound person to help you see you, right? To be a kind mirror, right? Because I think personally, that's, people are needing kindness and compassion, but mirroring your stuff to you, right? That's what people are. So whatever you can't see in you, that's really what a therapist can help you do, is see that. Well, your partner does too, but they don't usually do it in a very kind way, right? Because we get mad at each other and we fight or whatever. So I think that is kind of should be like a requirement, that you just continuously are going to be in some sort of coaching. Now I don't see a therapist regularly. I see a coach. So I've got a coach, and something we need something, there's so much to this, because even in therapy, we're not just talking to each other. It's an energetic exchange, right? I shared with you that my belief that we have 4 bodies to us. I know if you're in the more energetic spiritual world, I think they say there's 7, but the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. So we're doing a mental exchange here, talking, but there's also a spiritual and emotional exchange happening too, energetically, right? If you see 7 clients a day, every day, all week, how much energy are you walking with at the end of the day that's not yours? And not to mention, like, what they just told you about their trauma. You're being traumatized too. It's going into your unconscious mind too. And now your unconscious mind thinks it has happened to you. I mean, we're talking about, like, it is very impactful to be a therapist and be talking with other people, right? Forget the question you asked me. I was trying to get back around to it, but
I don't remember.
but okay, so yeah. So the point is, you need to be doing your own work, right? You need to be seeing a therapist, you need to be a coach, or whatever, your way of processing this stuff, right? And have time for self-care too, because I think a lot of therapists now are running themselves into the ground. They don't even have time for themselves. So that's part of it, right? But then the curriculum, who even makes a curriculum? I'm curious, because if you look at like public school curriculum, or just college curriculum, where it's coming from, and there's a lot of, like, we're moving into conspiracy land, but I need to go get my hat. I'm just I believe it. I believe it. Someone has bought these systems. Someone is funneling uncertain information. I mean, tell me why we have such a different education curriculum in society than in the Eastern world. because the Western world is monopolized. It's highly controlled. So what is even the purpose of going into like get your master's as a therapist? Like I personally don't believe that that information was adequate enough for me to be able to help people.
Mm. Yeah. Wow.
And it's not like we did an offload of our own, trauma and processing and all of that while we were in school.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that to get a master's degree, it there's like a disjointed, there's like a disconnect, it's like people receive master's degree, but they're like very minimally trained, and a lot of times there's this emphasis on like, well, what does the model say? What model are you picking? What are the next steps? What are the interventions?
Mhm.
And it's just like it's tough to like fit everybody into the model, or various models. Like some people, they learn a bunch of them, in the 1 or 2 years that they're in grad school, and they get like a little taste of each one. And I mean, that I think is even worse because you're only getting a little sample. Like, how are you even supposed to
Yeah.
master one thing? So anyway, yeah, it's really tough, and so, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like in my grad program, it just flew by. It flew by. There's so much info, and then I'm like, I need to practice with more clients. Like I need to do this for so much longer. And next thing I know, it's like, oh, capstone's due, in a couple months. Get it together. I'm like, what have I even learned here, dude? Like it's crazy. So yeah, I wonder who drafts those, and it's got to be tough too, because like it's not like math or science where it's like you have clear objectives. It's like this is so almost subjective. It's like what should people learn? If you had to do it over, Tiffany, if it was up to you, like how would you design a good curriculum for therapists and clinicians?
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I really have learned so much in the last, I'm going to say 3, 4, 5 years. And it's because I went rogue on mental health. I was like, all right, I got trained in every single modality. I went to get the certification for CBT and CPT and EMDR, and I didn't get the certification in all of them. I did the training for all of them. And after I did the training and I started using it, and I thought, there's something missing here. But like literally, I'm telling you, I can name them all off. DBT and there's so many. But you get the point. Is that I learned all those, and I thought there's something missing. I haven't found the one. I haven't found like the one that I think is the most beneficial. It's like because I believe that we all suffer from primarily the same things, like at a core, right? There's outliers and there's more extreme stuff and whatever, but because we've pathologized so many things, then we put it in a label, we put it in a box, and we go, oh, and this is where insurance came in. It has to go in a box, and we have to know how you're going to treat this box, right? But people are more alike than they are different. And here is where I think they're more alike, to answer your question. In the past couple of years, I've learned more about the body. I've learned more about the gut, more about, they're connected, the body and the brain, but that's not really the approach we take in school. So more about the gut, more about the breath, more about nutrition, all of those things and how they impact the brain, right? But none of those things are in the modalities that we're taught or we can be certified in. Now there are now. I'm certified in mental health nutrition, clinical specialist. So it's there. There are things there now. But it's not, we eat every day. That's a part of us. It's something that should be part of the curriculum, looking at the whole person. I remember this was probably, I don't know, maybe right before 2020. We used to have the 5 axes. Are you familiar with that? Do you know what that is?
That sounds familiar.
Okay.
That sounds familiar.
Axis 1 was what is the mental health disorder, if I'm remembering this correctly. Axis 2 is what's the personality disorder, if there is one. Axis 3 is any medical. Axis 4 is psychosocial stressors. And Axis 5 was the GAF. And so you would ask those questions, which was the closest thing I think we ever were to this is a whole person and not just a brain or a mental health or I don't know, not even a nervous system. We don't even really look at nervous system in grad school. So anyway, that went away. And they said, you don't have to do this anymore, like in 2020 or something like that. And at first I was like, cool, less work. But a couple years ago, I was like, oh man, it would have been so beneficial if we still had that, right? Well, now I have my own questionnaire. I ask my clients all of these questions because if I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you as a whole person because that's what you are. If you want me to just look at your brain, I got to refer you out because there are people that just look at the brain, right? So here are the things that I think that we need to be learning in school. Number one, nervous system. If we're going to talk about emotions, how are we leaving the nervous system out of that? That's wild. We do need to know about energy. We need to know about energetic exchanges. I believe that we need to be taught more about the unconscious mind and the language of the brain and the unconscious mind, because that's really what runs us. And that's where the baggage is stored. Gosh, there's a couple other things. I do think that we need to know about how nutrition impacts the brain, the breath. The one life-sustaining thing that we don't give much credit to at all. How are you breathing? If we truly want to help people, these are, and I might have left some things out. But we need to know about dynamics like the drama triangle for sure, right? The language of the brain is not just specific to us. There's different language styles, right? My husband is super inferential. I'm very literal. Can you imagine having conversations, right? Before we knew that, we were fighting all the time. And as soon as we learned that, I looked at him and I was like, wow, you are from Mars. You do speak a different language. And, just a little bit of personal, because it's real. Before we learned about the languages of the brain and how we communicated differently, he even said something like, I'd love for you to be funnier. And I said, no, my friends think I'm funny. And then I was like, and I'd love for you to be funnier too. And we both were like, neither one of us thought each other was funny. Not a problem, right? Well, so we learned about the language of the brain. And what's interesting now is that I actually can laugh at him because now I can understand where he's coming from, where before I'm just like, why does he think that's funny? That's not funny. Now I'm like, I can see how he thinks that's funny. And, vice versa. And so I think we need to know about things like that too. Different languages, not, English, Spanish, we all speak differently. We all have different learning styles, and that makes a difference. He's much more kinesthetic. So when we're having conversations, he's looking at and doing the dishes, right? And I'm like, look at my eyes, right? Because I'm much more auditory digital, and I want to look at you and I want you to be looking at me while we're talking. But before, I would take offense to it. I'm like, he's not listening to me. He doesn't respect me. And I'm like, he just needs to be moving and looking at something else.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. So, and we interact with people all the time. So if I had to say that there's something that's hugely missing from how we're equipped to help people in terms of what we receive in education in our master's degree, I mean, there's a lot missing. And I remember too, and this could be different in different parts of the world. I'm in Texas. Anything that was like, I don't know, we spoke very briefly about hypnosis, the unconscious mind, Freud, things like that. We kind of like joking about him laughing and, that was so silly that they thought that and stuff like that. But there's actually a lot of credit to a lot of the things that they did, that, dream interpretation or dream analysis and things like that. Those are actually all really valuable tools that we made a light of in grad school that we skipped over. That, I mean, now those are the things that I'm primarily using. I remember when I graduated and I was sitting with a group of people and we were all kind of talking about like what kind of therapist we'd be, right? Kind of like what you were talking about earlier. And I remember going, I don't know, but I'm not going to be one of those hippie woo-woo therapists. And that was probably me projecting out what my future would be like, where my baggage was, and where as soon as I worked through that baggage, now I'm a hippie woo-woo therapist. And I'm like, I don't care. It's helping you.
Yeah.
So those things are all being left out of our curriculum or being made light of.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's yeah, it does seem like there's so much left out. And I interviewed Dr. Scott Miller. He wrote a book, Escape from Babel, or Babel, however you pronounce it. And basically, one of the big premises of the book was that over the last 4 decades, the research shows conclusively that there's no difference in efficacy between, people that have been in the field longer and then people that are new to the field, even between therapists and then mentalists, tarot card readers, psychics, and even some placebos. And so don't quote me on that. Don't slay me out there. If, that's not, verbatim one of the premises, but he was just talking about it. He's like, actually we see the opposite, that a lot of people who are in the field longer tend to make more mistakes because they've been in the field longer. They're not seeking supervision. They get comfortable. They get complacent. Things just start happening. And so they see a steady decline of efficacy with more senior individuals in the field. And it really just got me thinking, because I'm like, wow, like therapy is on par with tarot card readers, and they're on par with psychics, palm readers, and like on and on. There was like a whole list of them, and it was just insane to me, because I'm like, to your point, it's like, but we're only exploring this really tiny slice of the ecosystem of healing modalities, And yeah, it was just so interesting to me that it's just like, we don't learn anything else, and last thing I'll say about that is he was sharing about how because those tarot readers entered the client's worldview, they do a really good job. Like the client believes them, they come in, the whole experience, a shebang, right? And then these people just do so well because they've been doing it for so long that they could just really enter into the client's worldview. And so lots of stuff. I really recommend every therapist read that. But yeah, to your point, Tiffany, just after I read that book as a student, I was just like, what am I doing studying out here? Like, how do I know that my professors or my supervisors are any better than I am? Nobody measures outcomes, like for all I know, they could probably suck, but here I am, listening, and I did, and I still do, because they do have a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. But there is something to be said about that too, is that all of his work, I mean, and he's a legitimate PhD researcher, published tons of books. I think he's on like number 12, lots of articles, he has a whole society, and he teaches around the world, and but that's not taught to us in school, And so, like you said, it's like, why are some things left out? And even he closed our podcast session with that question, and that is, why were you not taught this in grad school? And I was just like, I don't know. So yeah, really interesting, really, really interesting.
It actually makes me think, I said earlier, we're all different, right? And we can't all be helped or guided in the same way, right? Because we do perceive things differently. We experience things differently. We communicate things differently. And I think there is something out there for everyone, but there's not one thing out there for everyone. So where, I guess like tarot card reading, like where that may be very beneficial for someone, CBT might be very beneficial for someone. So like whatever works for the person, right? And I think we need to be skilled at having those boundaries, like being aware and having those boundaries, right? If I get a client, I can't think that, okay, so the work that I do, right? It's not necessarily very specific, but it's pretty much removed from traditional mental health modalities at this point, right? I can't think that what I'm doing is going to work for everyone all the time. And I need to be able to be mindful enough and aware enough, and also put my ego to sit down in the chair sometimes too, and go, hey, this person could really benefit from CBT, right? Does that mean I need to go and get certified in CBT? I mean, no, right? Maybe that's not, I need to be able to refer to someone who does CBT, right? And so, I mean, all having our own shit in check that's what I'm seeing is kind of the biggest issue from my perspective, in not just like the therapy world, but like people in general, right? But therapists, I'm seeing that a lot in these group platforms, right? What I know is better than what you know, and then I'm doing it right and you're doing it wrong, and you shouldn't be in this field because of that. And
that's also really interesting. What would you recommend therapists do to kind of get it together, Get all
your
that
shit
baggage.
together.
What's that?
What would I recommend therapists do to
Yeah.
get their shit together?
Yeah.
So one, acceptance,
Mm.
accepting that you'll never have all your shit together. I don't know. That's where I am right now. Is I think I have in my journey tried hard enough to have my shit, and in my therapist journey of 13 years, tried to have my shit together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's problematic. It's been problematic because then you're judging yourself and you're like, well, why am I struggling with this? Or how can I help someone if I'm struggling? Like, your life is a struggle. I mean, I don't think it's like 100% completely every day, every minute of the day is supposed to be a struggle. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
But if you were living, you were experiencing struggles and were suffering. I mean, it's part of it, but this is also part of my beliefs, right? I guess there are some people that believe that you hit a certain point, a certain age, or a certain milestone where struggling's done. You've done it and you'll have no more struggle the rest of your life. I just don't believe that's possible. So you have to accept, that shit's going to come up and you have to be committed to handling it, whatever way that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be a way that works for you.
Yeah.
If you're using CBT and you're beating yourself over the head with CBT and it's still not working, it's not going to work. Move on.
Yeah.
It's something else, right? You need a different tool.
Yeah. It's funny because one day my girlfriend and I walked into one of our Airbnbs and we had a guest who was staying at that location, and she's in med school, like towards the tail end of her med program. She's doing her residency. And we just got to chatting. And so my girlfriend and I are standing there chatting with our guest, and she found out that I was at the time doing the training to be a therapist. And she, like a lot of people, I think they just kind of start spilling, the tea when they're like, oh, well, I had this going on. And you're like, what? Kind of expecting some kind of like on the spot help. I don't know. But she talked about how when she was earlier in her college days, she had a boyfriend, one of two boyfriends, because she was from a family that still does like arranged marriages and stuff like that to this day. And so like they were very strict with boyfriends, and like, so anyway, she had one on the low, and went out a couple times, and she was like, this isn't for me. And the guy ended up stalking her, and it was very traumatic for her because like she got the police involved, and like this dude was following her around, and it was just like she didn't have a whole lot of experience dating. And so when something like this happened, it was just tough for her, and not to mention that she was trying to hide it from the parents, and, stuff happened. And so she was sharing all this with us, and I'm like trying to think like, what do I say? Like, what do I, so it's like, dang, sorry you went through that. I don't know. Right. And I just had this wild idea. I was like, have you ever been to the range? And she was like, no, she's like, oh, I'm from Chicago. And so guns are not like, it's just, they're really strict with guns and stuff like that. So I look at my girlfriend, I was like, hey babe, you want to show her your pistol? And so my girlfriend takes out her Glock and unloads it, clears it, hands it to the guest. And I'm telling you, Tiffany, the guest grabbed the pistol and held it to her bosom like this. She just hugged it, and she went like this. She was like, oh my God, I feel so safe now. And my girlfriend and I just looked at each other like, what? They ended up going out, shot on the range a couple days later, a week later, or whatever, when the time permitted. And who knows what happened to her? We didn't really talk with her after that, because she only stayed for a bit doing some kind of training in the area. And it just made me wonder, like, what other things are out there like that we could implement? And you know what I mean? Like, it never occurred to me. And like, after I saw her expression, it was so powerful in that moment. And what is the pistol going to do, right? Like, it's just a start. It's the entryway into confidence, into building something meaningful out of this. Maybe it allows her to go see a therapist or work on something, or who knows, maybe she becomes a competition shooter, and like copes that way, and she gets a concealed carry, and like, I don't know. And it just made me realize, like, there's so much, I think to your point, there's so much more to consider when it comes to helping people, like you mentioned, the breath work and the energy and the brain, the gut brain connection. And And even some of those extracurricular activities, like going to the range, working out, like getting some sun, like maybe doing a marathon, maybe do a cold plunge. I don't know. And like, so yeah, definitely. I think we do miss a lot. We really do miss a lot with helping and in our helping profession. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. That story, when you said that, I thought, I wonder, because we can get an idea of what she was feeling when she held that gun to her chest, her bosom. We can get an idea of what she was feeling, right? But even more so, what were the thoughts that fueled the feeling? What was the belief that she had? What was she exposed to internally, right? The things we can't see that we could guess, right? We could go like, oh, you look empowered, right? And she's not going to go like, I am, there's something else that's fueling that. But when we can put something on that's a little bit more universal, like empowered, right? Then that kind of laterally chunks or relates to like other things and other areas of life of like, where's an example of where else you're doing this in your life, right? This particular kind of giving your power away, for example, if we're staying on that, because I don't know her exact details or whatever, but yeah. And that is where I believe if we're a mirror, like I imagine it as like, I'm very visual, so I'm like a little spotlight on it, right? So like we keep the spotlight on you and what you're experiencing, right? When in therapy, we're turning the spotlight to ourselves and like some of the ways that we're responding to, well, even other therapists, because I think sometimes how we can see how you even relate to another therapist or speak with them is going to be pretty similar to how you're talking to other people, like even your clients. We can say we do it separate, but like, nah, I don't know how much of that.
Yeah.
But we're making it about us when the spotlight's on us, right? We're saying, I think you should do this or, whatever, right? But when we go like, oh, what was that? When you held that to your chest and what was that feeling? Okay, where did you feel it in your body? And then we can start to, we get them to associate to what's happening here internally. Then we can ask them, what kind of thoughts are you having?
Yeah.
What does this mean to you? What are the, what are the beliefs? Right. And there's different ways to ask them those questions to get those answers. But, just does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think there's a lot of things we can do, right? Like you mentioned, cold plunge, which is I love the cold plunge and I advocate for the cold plunge. And I think in terms of distress tolerance, we could teach people a lot about their bodies, their resilience, and empower them and putting them in some situations that are safe, controlled environments where you're experiencing distress. We kind of coach you through like how to be okay. And then once you've done the experience, how do people normally feel? Like, man, I could do anything. Yeah. Right?
Oh yeah. That should be a thing, Tiffany. Cold plunge therapy, like real therapy. You got a cold plunge in the office. They walk in, get in the tank, and the therapist is outside just talking to you. That'd be wild, actually. I would probably pay for that. Two birds with one stone. But it's interesting for sure. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I think there's a version of that. I've been kind of like playing with this idea. Since I am certified as a breathwork practitioner, and I've been thinking of ways to incorporate it. I don't want to just go do breathwork with people, right? It's not really, I want to incorporate healing. And there's something about it too, is that like, what I understand in learning respiratory physiology is why some people go into panic attacks or have anxiety, right? It's because they're not breathing properly in the first place. So let's say we do somatic breath work or experiential breath work with them, which is that, the Wim Hof, huffing, puffing, fast, hard, all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And it releases lots of emotions and, and it does. But then what happens to them when they go home? If they don't know how to breathe well, then they may get into this pattern of doing that all of the time. That can be problematic because then they're staying stuck because you're essentially putting them in the sympathetic nervous system. So they're staying stuck. And so when I learned breath work, my passion was more in restorative breath work. Like, okay, let me teach people how to breathe properly, right? So they're not experiencing so much of that anxious state or the ADHD or whatever in the sympathetic nervous system. And there was one part that has stood out to me is that 70% of detox occurs through breath. All right, why is that significant? Because when we're talking about emotion staying in the body, this makes a lot of sense now why you can breathe trauma out in the somatic breathwork, in the experiential, right? There's time and a place for it. But if we can couple that with distress tolerance, like I'm an advocate of cold plunge, I do it, and we can get someone in a cold plunge in a very short period of time. This can happen in under 3 minutes. So you get them in a cold plunge, immediately they go into sympathetic nervous system. They start breathing hard and heavy, but you can coach them through breathing, bringing their breath back to a restorative balance, right? Where it's signaling to the nerve, it's bringing the nervous system down into the parasympathetic, and it's signaling to the body and the brain, you're safe. There's no threat here, right? And that's kind of training. Well, one, you're releasing emotions while you're doing that. And I think there's maybe some processing that can be done in that moment, but I will tell you it can be challenging because your brain just goes offline when you get into that water. So in terms of cognitively processing, I don't know that that's there, right? But there's an unconscious thing that happens too when we experience things. And then when you are breathing that out, then you're releasing stuff. So kind of played around with, but as a licensed professional, I don't think there's room for any of that. Right? There's too much ethics and liability and all I don't know that will ever be a thing in our profession necessarily, but it is why I've moved over into that coaching space, because there's a lot more room for things you can do with people.
Yeah, for sure. What's probably like one or two big changes that you were able to make as a coach when you moved over?
Can you be more specific? Changes?
Yeah, like when you moved over to be a coach, what were kind of a couple things that you were able to implement as a coach that you weren't able to implement maybe as a therapist?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, cold plunge, for example. I actually have done that with a client. Cold plunging. What else have I been able to implement? More nutritional stuff, which I don't know. I personally see, why can't you do that as a therapist? So that, I mean, I feel like we can do that as a therapist. Let's see. Breathing, the breath. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do with the body and trauma and the breath. So maybe those are the two, maybe kind of biggest things. Yeah. Hypnosis still falls under therapy. It's just not as widely known and used, I guess. It's a little bit, people get scared of it. So you have to have some big conversations around it. Well, maybe the other one is the Hawaiian shamanic energy.
What?
Yeah. I use it in therapy. You can, but it's something that I use more in coaching. Typically in coaching, I'll do a breakthrough session with someone, which allows for about 8 hours. It's an 8-hour session. It's long, so you want to break it up. Some people do it in one day. I don't prefer to do it in one day. I need a break too. So typically 4 hours one day, we come back, we'll do it in the evening, and then 4 hours the next kind of morning. So you sandwich it in, get a little sleep in between. There's some processing that happens. That's not something you can do as a therapist. It's not, it's not recognized by insurance. I don't know, I guess you can do it as a therapist. You can't bill to insurance. I don't bill anything to insurance anyway, but it's something I do in my coaching. It's part of my coaching package. It's not part of what I offer as a therapist. Yeah. But the breakthrough session is one of the most beneficial things I've ever done with anyone ever.
What's the secret sauce to that, Tiffany?
I use neurolinguistic programming. I use the ancient Hawaiian shamanic energy. And I use the breath. Is there anything else so we go in and we get to the root of, we want to know what the problem is. What area of life do you want to work on? Because sometimes we got a lot of problems. We need to narrow it down, right? So for example, if there are 6 areas of life, which is the model that I work from, what's the one area of life that you have like the biggest goal, right? And let's say that it's your career. Like, I really want to do this in my job. Then I'll say, okay, is there any other area of life that if you were to resolve some big issues would help you progress in your career? And someone might say, yeah, if my relationship was a little bit more connected, and we had less, maybe less baggage or less discord in our relationship, then I would be able to do much more in my career. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a breakthrough session in the area of relationship, because that's going to move you towards what you want in your career. So then we've narrowed it down to relationship. Okay, what's the problem? And we spend a couple of hours really talking about the problem. Now, here's the difference where you can't do some of the traditional therapeutic stuff, right? And I talked to you up front, and we agree that I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to answer those questions. And sometimes you're going to tell me a lot, and I'm going to have what I need, and I'm going to need to stop you, because if I let you share everything about everything, you know, this is already 8 hours. This could go on for days. But if I hear what I need and we need to move on, do I have permission to just abruptly interrupt you? Right? That way, you know, it's coming. You know that I'm just going to stop you and say, I have what I need. And we dig. I have specific questions. We dig to the root. And when we get to the root, when I believe we've gotten to the root, and I'll ask you, you think we've gotten there, right? And then I will name some stuff off. And you can usually tell by sensory acuity, right? You say something back to someone and they start crying. We're like, oh, I think we got it, right? Then we go in and we release that. So I use mental and emotional release, and something else called ho'oku'u, which is the Hawaiian energy tools. And so we'll release the core negative emotions. They're layered. So anger, sadness, fear, hurt. We do it in that specific order. And then we release the root of the problem, any other maladaptive beliefs or limiting beliefs that you have. I heard you say parts a couple of times. I have a tool for that. We do parts integration. And if there's any trauma, there is a modality for that where we can completely release the trauma. Now, that doesn't mean that you never remember it. You still remember it. You just don't have the trigger. It's there, but the negative emotions or whatever belief was formed is completely released. And so we use that 8 hours to do all of that, and then to move you forward in what you're wanting. Does that answer your question about the?
Yeah, sounds like it's quite the protocol, you know, like there's a lot, there's a lot there for sure.
It's intensive.
Yeah, for sure. 8 hours. And then I'd love to see the energy release. Like, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, we could do a session. I could do parts with you.
You know, that's one thing I never understood, Tiffany. Maybe you can shed some light on this. Like Reiki, like how do people learn Reiki online? Like how is that a thing?
So
is that a thing? Am I just like thinking too much into it? What are your thoughts?
I think you can learn Reiki online. So I've taken Reiki 1, just to be honest, because I wanted to compare it, because I already knew it's called Huna, this ancient Hawaiian energy healing. I wanted to compare it to Huna because everyone said, oh, it's kind of like Reiki. And I'm like, I've never done Reiki, so I don't know what they're talking about. And I've been to events and, you know, places where they're doing some Reiki stuff. And the only, you know, your eyes are closed. So sometimes you're like, I don't know what they're doing. You know, I can maybe feel them close to my body or things like that, or put a fork on your forehead or like something like that. And you're like, what's going on? And so I went because I wanted to see, what is this about? Right. And I learned it. And yes. Okay. So how is it that you can even learn it online? You've got to have like a foundation of energy, like a knowledge of what is it, right? Because we're not taught that. The most incredible thing is that there is so much about us that we don't know that is out there. It's available, but we're not taught it. It's incredible. How can we go through it? I'll just say like K through 12 and you never learn about your nervous system. Something that impacts you so incredibly, right? And we have disorders around it, but we're not teaching people about those things. So we're made of energy, and we're not taught that we are made of energy. So just learning how you are made of energy, energetic fields. I do think some people are a little bit more, what's the word? I'm not a little bit more highly sensing. Some people are more highly sensing. I don't mean highly sensitive. You might call it that. That's more judgmental. But when you are highly sensing to energy, then you can feel energy in environments. You can feel it with other people. You know, I'm not making any of this shit up. Like your heart emanates what? An energy field 30 feet out, I think.
Whoa.
People can get within a room of you and feel your energy. And that's scientifically proven. And there are tools in like hospitals that measure that. But then we don't want to talk about it. We don't tell anybody about it. But so you, and it is a practice. I don't think you can learn Reiki and then go do Reiki. You have to practice. And just like with the Huna, you have to practice as well. There's so much to it. I'm just not sure where to go unless you have.
Did you go to Hawaii to learn? What is it
I
called?
did not.
Or
I actually learned Huna 1 online.
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
I learned Huna 1 online. I did Huna 2 in person. I am going to Huna 3 to learn how to do energy work with groups in Hawaii later this year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right on. What has been the feedback from clients that have worked with you, Tiffany?
Oh man, I posted some testimonials. So there, you can't tell you anything specifically. I will tell you this. I learned some of these newer tools that I'm using that are not taught in, school for therapy. Started learning them, gosh, was it 2 or 3 years ago? And I didn't even go learn these tools to do therapy with them. Honestly, I was like deep into breath work and nutrition. And like, that's how I was going to start helping people. But my husband and I were struggling. And the therapist we were seeing said, listen, you guys are communicating so differently and you're missing the mark. She said, I can hear it. And I think that if you guys could learn more about communication styles, the differences in the language of the brain, that you guys would have a chance. And she was not wrong. So she said, there's a training that comes up. It's coming. So we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She said, it's coming to Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's every year in June. We went and that changed everything. Then we went to learn more. Just, we were like, this was so beneficial that we want to get even better at it. And so then we went to a 2-week-long training in July. That was an extension of what we did. I came home and I was like, I can use this with my clients. And I think this will be so helpful. And I started using it with my clients and it was so devastating because they got better so fucking fast. And I had the smallest caseload. So I don't think my clients had to say anything. And at that point, I wasn't even taking testimonials. I just was like, shit, another one out the door. Mm-hmm. Another one. And then I got excited and I just wanted to learn more. And so that's where the Hawaiian energy work came in. And honestly, that just makes the other stuff work faster. And what's incredible is, when you're doing the work, someone doesn't even have to know that you're doing the energy work. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I guess that could sound scary or bad, but I'm coming from a very light and love, intentional type of place, and, when you do work with me, you sign consents that say that I can use anything that I am trained in. So, if you just don't want to hear the chanting and you don't want to hear the Hawaiian language or you don't want me to do any sort of like certain symbols then I just don't. I can do it in my mind and it's still effective.
Dang.
It's cool.
Does the client need to be in person for them to experience the benefits, or can you
do everything online? That's the thing, Rich. That's the thing about energy.
Wow.
Is like we have an energy connection right here, right now. Literally.
Yo, Tiffany, throw me some symbols, man. Let's go.
What do you want? So do you want some fire? Do you want?
No, I don't want fire. What? I'm trying to burn over here, Tiffany. No, that's really cool. What is the name of that training, Tiffany?
The name of the training, the
one that you took in Dallas.
The Huna. Oh, the one in Dallas. Okay, yeah. So the one in Dallas. Okay, that one's by Empowerment Inc. It is called integrative. I think it's called integrative NLP. I call it PRAC, and once you go, you end up. We just call it PRAC. But I think integrative NLP. It's happening in June. Okay, and so since we're talking about this, it's 4 days and it's 10 hours a day, which sounds intimidating. as a therapist, okay, I paid $150 for 40 hours of this training.
Wow.
In terms of CEUs, I have never gotten a more valuable CEU for that cost. I would do it again.
Wow.
In fact, actually, I will be assisting this year. So online, it says that it's $300. And if I could just plug a promo code, Tiffany B will get you 50% off. So 4 days for $150 instead of $300. And if you don't do anything else with it, even that 40 hours, my husband and I are still married. It's been 2 or 3 years. We were literally, that was our last, that was it. And I said, well, it's one thing that I know we haven't tried. It's worth trying, but we were on our way to divorce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. That is incredible. That sounds really interesting. So you said 3 days, 10-hour days.
4 days.
4 days, 10 hours, kind of full immersion, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then your clients were just killing it.
It wasn't necessarily after that 4-day training. So that's what we call that prac. It's the introduction to NLP or integrative NLP. I mean, it's a lot of content. It's a lot of information.
Yeah.
It's experiential. And so there's a lot of content teaching, and then they'll do a demonstration of certain exercises. Let me think of one of the things we learned at prac is how to remove an allergy. So allergies are actually connected to trauma, and they're stored in the unconscious mind. You can release them.
What?
Yes. So we learned that at prac. And so they'll do a demo, and then you go and, did we do that at prac? I think they demo it at prac. And then you do the exercise with someone else. So that's how this training does their trainings, is they will demo something to you, and then they give you an opportunity to work with someone else to release the allergy from them, and then they release the allergy from you, or whatever it is that you're learning at the time. There's so much that you learn, but that's not where I learned the bulk of the tools that is helping my clients. Where I actually learned the bulk of the tools that's helping my clients is the 2-week training that we did after that. So just kind of a little personal, just to keep the story cohesive. So my husband and I we're on our last day of this training, and they tell you of it's a business. Okay. They tell you of all the other trainings that they do. And Huna was one that just really resonated with me. I was like, yeah, I need to do Huna. And I think it's kind of marketed, or my internal representation, how I remember it is, are you someone who's deeply feeling? Are you someone who, wants to know more about energy, or there's something else, or it's kind of something like that. And I'm like, yeah, if I could have some boundaries on some other people's energy, like I think I'd be okay. Right. Because I used to see myself as a sponge. Like I just absorbed, and you've been around people that you've got some energy, and some of it, when you absorb it, it's like, I got to shower.
I got to clean myself off.
To detox.
Get rid of all the heebie-jeebies. Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, man, if I could learn that and learn, how to help other people. And so anyway, my husband said, are there any other trainings that you want to do? I said, yeah, Huna sounds cool. I love to do that and help my clients with it. And he goes, I think we should do Master Prac. So it's short for Master Practitioner. And I said, oh, well, to begin with, I was like, it's so strange that he's interested in this, because we just did a meditation, and my husband's not, he's my counterpart, right? And so I was very pleasantly surprised. Okay, so he said, I think we should do Master Prac. And I said, honestly, it's expensive, and we don't have the money for it. And he said, we don't have the money to not do it. We don't have, something like that. Yeah, it was something, oh man, I'm not giving it enough justice. It was so profound. I'm really proud of him for saying something like that. And it helped me understand that he was invested, and he saw okay, there's something else that can really help us a lot more. Right. And so, so what we signed up for the training, which was literally in 3 weeks, flew out to San Diego, stayed for the entire training, because you can break it up. It's 2 weeks, but you can do week 1 or week 2. They do it in parts. The second part is where you learn what's called MER, or mental and emotional release, and hypnosis. Those are the things that I use the most that help my clients. So if there's anything from these trainings that I use the most that has helped me with my clients, it would be what I learned at the master practitioner training. Now, what's super cool about this company is, and I think if you're ever thinking about going to the master practitioner route, you really need to do the introduction first, or you're going to be kind of lost in the sauce. When you go to the introduction, the 4-day, they actually give you it's a different rate. It's like they call it an in-training rate. So there's a benefit to being at that training. Then you get a in-training rate if you sign up for anything in the future. So I highly recommend that if you're going to go that route, that you find one. But they're doing them all the time, all over the place. They only go to each location once a year. So they're in Austin once a year, they're in Houston once a year, they're in Fort Worth or Dallas once a year. I don't know if they come out to your area. I'm guessing, there's something.
Yeah. I'm looking at their site now, and I'm not seeing any. I'm not seeing any North Carolina trips. Maybe they already did some. But it's not bad because we could probably take a little road trip, go somewhere.
Yeah, there's an online in December.
Wait, how do they go to Boise, Idaho, but they don't come out here to North Carolina? What the heck?
I don't know.
They don't come out here to Charlotte or Raleigh, big cities. They go to Boise. Boise's
maybe you can put in a request.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, this is really cool. This is really interesting, and it sounds like it's really been helpful for you and the work that you do with your clients.
If I were someone right now considering going into grad school, I wouldn't do it.
What?
I would go to Prac. I would go to Master Prac. I would go to HUNA. I might even do their coaching program. Now, I haven't been in their coaching program, but some people look for credentials, right? I think my personal opinion is you can waste a lot of time and money in a grad school program and still not be, and also not feel equipped because you're not when you leave.
So here's the thing, Tiffany, is like, I hear you, and I like what you're saying. And also, nowadays, it's about the bottom line, right? Can this really help a clinician run a successful business that affords them, what the average therapist is making, which is what, like 65, like on average, like some reports out there. But yeah, like what does that look like?
I mean, when you factor in school student loans, that's when you factor that in.
Oh yeah, and the time, right? The time commitment, because that's also a cost.
And the thing is, you're not even trained in any sort of business, right? Like, I left a group practice in the end of 2020, very beginning of 2021, and I just was kind of like winging it. And just, I knew the bare minimum of what I needed to do, right? I got my LLC because I think you had to get a business bank account, right? And then I'm like, so you had to backtrack a little bit, right? The bank's like, no, you have to have. So I did that. And then so there's a couple little things, depending on where you are, I'm in Texas, that you have to have set up, right? And then but there's much more to business than that, right? There's marketing, there's all this other stuff. And I've learned, some tricks here and there. I've got a virtual assistant out of the Philippines, which is much more cost effective than someone here in the United States. And so she does a lot of my marketing type of stuff. Because as a therapist, it's a whole other job to market. It's a whole other job to a business. There's a whole business degree, but I don't know about you. We were not taught anything about business, how to sustain a private practice or anything like that. I do know that in empowerments, and I'm not plugging them or advocating for their coaching program at all, just like I'm not going to advocate for anybody's coaching program I haven't done. They do a year-long program where they're teaching you these skills and these tools. I don't know if there's other requirements, like maybe you have to go to Master Prac, but they're teaching you the business part of it. So I would have invested that, which is a fraction of the cost of a couple years in grad school. Yeah. I might get some heat for this. I've seen coaches that were much more effective than therapists that have no degree. A degree is a status. Like, I was going to go and get a doctorate. Why? Because I wanted to be called a doctor. I wanted to be seen as this person knows their stuff. They have their shit together. But how many doctors do you know that you're like, I'm not referring to them?
Yeah, quite a few.
So, I mean, you got to weigh your pros and cons, right? Am I going to go pay for this to have this status? What's important to you? Because that's the other thing too. I can only project my model of the world. I can only project my beliefs, but you have to decide what's right for you. Maybe part of your journey is going like, oh, Tiffany's full of shit. Coaches, blah, 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 this, that, and whatever. I'm going to get my master's degree. You become a therapist and you have to learn your own journey. And then maybe you end up becoming a coach and you're like, I should have done this anyway. Right?
Well, and that's, I like what you're saying. And it brings me back to getting feedback, and that's one thing that therapists don't do is gather feedback, like PHQ-9, GAD-7, whatever they are, the numbers, I might've got them mixed up. But nobody's like aggregating data, right? We can't collect testimonials in therapy. We can't get reviews and ask for them directly. And so there's a lot of limitations, but even the APA published a really in-depth article about how clinicians could administer the PHQ-7 or the GAD-7, the PHQ-9, aggregate all those things, get the consent from the client early on, right? All the disclosures are filled out properly, but they can get data, gather it, and at the end of the year say, hey, out of the 120 clients that we saw this year, whatever percentage experienced this percentage reduction in symptoms within the first 5 sessions. And nobody does that. Nobody's like investing the time to show people that their services are of value. And, and that's one thing that's really interesting to me. And I've always wondered why people don't do that. Maybe just more work. Maybe it's
another job.
It's another expense. It's another administrative burden. Right. And then, but it's just like, if you're convicted about what you do, why not show potential clients? You know what I mean? And so, and I think with coaching, you guys aren't limited by the same rules, right? Like you still ask for reviews and stuff like that. Can you, or you can't?
You can ask for reviews.
Oh, you can. Okay. Yeah. So see,
there's so much more you can do with coaching. And that's, I don't know, maybe I'd love to have an open conversation with someone about this, where someone can share maybe their experience. Share their experience and some of their knowledge, right, about the difference in coaching and therapy. I have my own biased opinion, but it's also limited to just very limited knowledge.
Let's hear it. What you got?
Well, I've started to question and really wonder why the therapy field is so restricted. Like the thing is, it seems like to me that we have rules that we just have rolled down through forever, right? And not just for therapists. Well, one thing that's really confusing too is that like your license, you're a therapist and you're trained in North Carolina, but you can't do therapy here in Texas and vice versa. Yeah. There's like, what about me is so different when I go to that state? Are the people different there? You guys need a different kind of therapist trained in a different kind of way that, so some of the rules don't really make sense to me. And some of them do, and I understand. And I believe there are rules for a reason. I also believe there are rules just to be rules because nobody has questioned them and nobody has matched them up against like today. Is it really make sense for today? Is it relevant for today?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there is something to be said about like these legacy rules that like people just kind of like all of the things, right? It's just like, oh, that's just how we've always done it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's a story about that somewhere. I forgot what, but it's just like people just, what was it? It was like anyway, I'm going the rabbit hole, but yeah, it's just like one of those things that's just unquestioned, becomes part of tradition, and it's just like, oh, it was always done it. Like we've never, and that's the thing that kind of bothers me about the field in a way. It's just like that nobody really questions things. We're not really petitioning. We're not really like pushing back on like the reviews thing. Like why can't we ask a client at the end of the course of therapy, maybe even like we can even have something really conservative that says something like, hey, after 60 days after discharge, there could be like an email that invites them to leave one if they want to, or something like that. It doesn't have to be in the moment during therapy or even before, but it could be like even a year after, or 2 years or something. I don't know,
Well,
send it. What you got?
I think a year after or 2 years after or even a week after is too long.
It's too long.
Because then there's something that, have you ever had a client who had a really good experience? And they tell you like, man, I had a really good experience. I could feel really good. I whatever.
Thank
and
you.
A week later, you see them again and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And they're like, well, after our last session, and you're like, let me go back to my notes. Cause I had a client who we did some work together, and she came in one time and she was like, this is not working for me. I'm not making progress. I this, that, and the other. And I was like, am I remembering correctly? And I did. I went back through every single note. And for every single note, I just made a little summary for myself. And like, did the client say anything about, and I use AI notes. And so thankfully they just record everything that the client says. And literally she had said after almost every single session, how good she felt. And I had to go and remind her. So when people are doing reviews, when they wait a period of time, it's not, our memory is not that great. But what's interesting is people do leave reviews, right? They can go on Google, they can go on wherever, and they can leave a review. And usually the people that are doing that, it's negative, right? Because they're heated. They want to tell somebody about it right now. And so it's kind of unfair to us, I believe, because the people who are feeling good, they're moving on into their next, like they feel so good, they're going to go do their dishes now, right? They're not thinking about doing a review, right? So it's kind of unfair that we don't have anything even to balance that out.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
We can't ask them, but they can do it. And they, I don't know. I know there are some people getting around that with certain specific verbiage, like if you feel cold or whatever kind of thing. So I don't, and I think maybe it's different from state to state too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts about the difference between coaching and therapy? Like I heard somebody say a while ago that as long as the therapist is not using any textbook interventions from like a modality, that technically then it's not therapy at all. Like, so if I'm like, oh, we're going to use therapeutic letters, and I'm calling it therapeutic letters, and that's in the narrative therapy textbook, and like, by these people, then in that moment when I'm using that verbiage, and I am acting in the capacity of a therapist. And I was like, well, that makes sense. Just don't use the verbiage. Like, because therapeutic letters could be, it's not exclusive to narrative therapy, like it's not but in that moment, if I'm using the verbiage of the textbook that is about narrative therapy, then I am acting like fast. And it made sense to me. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Just careful how you say things. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that goes back to, for me, the drama triangle and being at cause. Careful how you say things, right? How much energy does it use for you to be very meticulous and careful about how you say something? And how frequently do we accidentally say the wrong thing? And then who gets to decide what's right and what's wrong? Right? Yeah, there's specific verbiage, therapeutic letters, and you may accidentally call it a therapeutic letter. My opinion is some of these things are nitpicky and they're silly. And it's taking the focus off what are we actually doing? We're here to guide people. We're here to help them heal.
Yeah.
And if we have to be so very careful about how we do it and what words we're using, there's a lot of words. Like, give me a list of like what's off limits. And now I'm focused on being afraid of what I say and how I say it. And that's hard. That takes the focus off of, that's a spotlight on me. That takes the focus off me having the spotlight on the client, and I'm here to help you and guide you.
Wow. That just reminds me of, what book is that? Or you got to watch what you say.
I don't know. I'm interested. What is it?
1984, something like that.
Okay.
I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, 1984, it talks about that, how like, there's like, like language is controlled and it's limited, and because anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but that's so interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. Tiffany, so what do you what's the takeaway? What if the viewers watching us, they've been with us for an hour and 47 minutes. They're committed. They're in it, right?
We're gonna break this into two parts.
Right. What is maybe like a couple of takeaways if for the viewer?
Yeah. Okay. Viewer as a therapist. Man, this is tough. Okay, let me. Viewer as a therapist. There's a lot of ways to say things. There's a lot of ways to do things. There's a lot of ways to be. If we focus on the right way, it's going to be the wrong way to somebody. Always. I would say be mindfully aware of yourself first, internally. Be committed to doing your work. If you're committed to helping other people, that's how you're going to do it. And we have to let go of some shit. Intentions are the biggest part of a lot of things. So lead with light and love and intend goodness and to help others. Everybody's different, but we're all the same. And that might not make sense to some people, and it will make sense to others. So, takeaway for a layperson who's not a therapist. We're human too. And there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that goes into helping and guiding other people. And the biggest thing that a layperson can do for themselves is be committed to being at cause and seeing where there's an opportunity for learning for them. Coaches. I don't know what to say. It'd probably be the same thing as for the therapist. And be committed to learning and healing. I don't know.
All right.
I'm going to have to brainstorm on that one and write something down. So in the future.
I probably threw you a curveball there and didn't prep you with that, but thank you for that, Tiffany. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts about just the landscape of the profession, and then some good takeaways about just conduct as a therapist, as a coach, as just a person, and what that looks like and what it means to be a therapist and embodying some of the work that we do, and how that could benefit not just ourselves, but our clients also. And then also, thanks for sharing about the work that you've learned with Empowerment Inc. And what is it, Huna?
Huna's done with Empowerment Inc. There's another company that does, and it is actually who I did my Huna 1 and 2 with is Dr. Patrick Scott. And I think that's Integral Life Systems. He actually offers a virtual option, which is a little more cost effective. If you go to Hawaii for all these trainings, wow, the cost is, some people can afford it. But yeah, so also Integral Life Systems. I love both those companies. So.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to get that Boise, Idaho rate, you know what I mean? Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate you sharing a lot of your thoughts. And maybe we can do it again in the future. How does that sound?
Yeah, I love that.
If somebody wants to partner with you, they want to reach out for coaching, maybe pick your brain, see what's going on in the world, maybe elaborate on some stuff, how can they reach out?
Email is probably the best way. Tiffany Bays, LPC@gmail.com. You can find me on TikTok, The Pain Alchemist, or laugh.breathe.heal. I think it's in that order. I post much more on TikTok. It's a different kind of platform where you can be much more real. If you really want to know me, go follow me on TikTok. If you want to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you're going to find me as Tiffany Bays or laugh.breathe.heal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Be kind. Be kind.
Oh, you said be kind?
Be kind.
Be kind.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Tiffany, thanks again. I appreciate your time. And everybody, thank you for tuning into this one. And until the next one, catch you then. Bye.
Thank you.